genuinely trying to move me.
Need you to sign a consent form.
The screen go black and be like,
my name is JP. I'm from Kenya. I live like right there. My bed is actually like right across the wall. I'm his good friend, and I accepted this because it's like it's a chance to have a good conversation. I looked to the interview questions, and it's nothing difficult, you know. It's like it's tackling like bigger ideas, of course, but like it's just me giving my opinion and my views on stuff. Like it's not like, you know, a test. It's not gonna be too hard, and I feel like I will enjoy it because like, yeah, there'll be moments of like, of course, my ideas will be challenged, or I'll challenge my own ideas, and like just moments of like laughter, you know. I feel like it will be a good moment, and
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
good stuff.
Okay. Now, let's move on to our first question. Personal, alright? What do you think's more important in fiction? What do you think it's for? Do you think it's as means to escape reality, or is it a reflection of it?
Okay, so let's begin with a personal anecdote.
I love stories. Come
My
on, hit me.
favorite piece of literature to this day is The Lord of the Rings. Now, The Lord of the Rings is like, these movies were foundational to my youth. I love the movies so much. I read the books, and I love the books. I've read the books 2 times now, and what's so like capturing about them is they take me away. Like whenever I'm reading or watching The Lord of the Rings, I'll watch them in different eras. I've watched them through loss, through grief, through happiness, through celebration. I've watched them in Christmas time. I've watched them when it's cold. I've watched them when it's hot. I've watched them during the day. I've watched them at night. But they always take me to different places. They always like transport me out of like where I am into somewhere else, and that's so like valuable. I love it. Like there's nothing quite like The Lord of the Rings in terms of what can take me away, you know. And for me, that's what makes it like that's I think from my early childhood, that's what made it so powerful for me, is that whatever the night, whatever the occasion, I could sit down, stare at a screen, but be taken away. When I read the books, the same thing. I could sit down and stare at a piece of paper, but be, you know, fighting orcs in Mordor. And that's powerful. I don't know. And yeah, so going on from there, I would say that J.R.R. Tolkien, when I delved deeper into his philosophy of being an author, I discovered that he hated depicting. He hated allegory. That's what he called it. He hated allegory and like alluding to real life stuff and in his works of fiction. And for me, I could see that kind of hate for like real world themes. He wanted his work to purely be something that takes you away. He wanted to create a new world, you know. He wanted to create a mythology and not have it be bogged down by his own ideas, which he would reflect on if we're talking on reflecting on the real world. So of course, ultimately there are still themes that in this piece of fiction use like the ideas of like a good versus evil, which is pretty clear cut, you know. It's a very environmental piece of literature, The Lord of the Rings.
Define environmental.
It has a love for the environment. It shows utter hatred to, like, Saruman. His destruction of the forests is literally a plot point that it undoes him. And yeah, like the trees kill him, you know. And it's like J.R.R. Tolkien, in his diaries, he wrote that he loved as a child, you know, he was kind of grieved by seeing the loss of the English countryside, you know. It was green, it was luscious, but industrialization destroyed that. So even he who hated, we could say, he didn't like this reflection in his pieces of work, he included that, you know. But anyway, the point is, yeah, my favorite piece of literature it avoids reflection as much as possible. It has the themes, but it doesn't tie it to the real world, you know. Yeah, so I think ultimately, using just that example, I would, in literature, I feel like literature, it can be enjoyed with or without reflection. It can be enjoyed merely as a means to escape. Escapist literature is, I feel, necessary at times because, I mean, yeah, life is hard, you know. So if you want a chance to escape, then if you have a chance to escape, then yeah, you're gonna take it. But then there is the other hand of it, which is that, of course, as writers, as authors, as musicians, as filmmakers, you know, whichever kind of art you're making, you kind of have a service to your community, which is that people engage to the world through literature also, like people's ways of thought are kind of shaped by the literature they consume at early ages. So of course, reflecting on real world themes is still completely important. If you raise children and the themes you feed them foster a kind of hate towards something or a kind of bias, then yeah, they'll carry that with them to adulthood, and I don't wish for that. And yeah, they're gonna have the bias anyway. Like if they'll choose to get a lesson out of the works you give them, out of the literature you give them. So I feel like, yeah, there is a space and a specific time for reflection in literature, but there's also a lot of space for escapism. You know, I'm sorry to be cliche, but like ultimately there's balance that has to be reached, and it depends on the author, on the writer, what they're making, and it also depends on what the kind of literature that's being produced. Yeah.
Okay, that is a very elaborate answer, JP. I took from your would you agree with the statement that escapist literature, okay, let's ease into it, right? You've heard of George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Right, Dance of Dragons, blah blah blah. So Game of Thrones, it's also very popular, right? But would you say that one day it will be just as popular and culturally dominant as Lord of the Rings?
You see, to an outsider, I'm answering your question. It may seem like I'm not at first, but like, to an outsider, both those pieces of literature, they have swords, they have dragons, they have battles, they have fighting, they have princes, they have shields, armor, they have horses. So to many people, they would group them together. But like the Lord of the Rings and the Game of Thrones, they could not be farther apart in like the thematic constructs. Thinking about it, the themes that are explored in Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin goes in with much more nuance, we could call it, because he wants to mirror the real world. He wants to mirror how things actually would be, how if you were a royal, how the dynamics in that royal setups would be. And
noble.
Yes, a nobleman. And The Lord of the Rings, on the other hand, its perspective is always and completely on the underdog. It's on Frodo Baggins, you know, of Bag End. He's just
a half man,
a hobbit. he's called a little one. They call him little one, the man, right? They call him the little one. And think of the perspective of him versus the multiple perspectives of the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And like what goes on there. So they're very different pieces of literature. So yes, the Game of Thrones can occupy eventually, can become as culturally dominant or more culturally dominant than the Lord of the Rings. But that's in the same way that Avengers Endgame was the cultural moment of 2019. You know, it's in the same fashion. Like, it's merely another piece of media being culturally dominant. I wouldn't link it to the Lord of the Rings because they're very different. They're very different.
Okay, so you would concur with the statement that the Lord of the Rings is better subjectively than Game of Thrones.
Subjectively, so yes.
Okay, now in this case, would you necessarily construct a quote-unquote quality pyramid, right? There's only two levels of this pyramid. There's only two levels. The top 1% is escapist literature, and the bottom 99% are realistic literature. Would you necessarily construct a pyramid like so? Would you say that escapist literature is above political literature, if you agree with the statement that all art is political?
No. No.
No?
Escapist literature it has its time and place. It has its there are times and places where it's appropriate. However, okay, here's a completely different idea. Kenya produced one of like a really great author. In your spare time, if you wanna expand your reading, you should read him. He's called Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and he's like so good. His books are, I've only read one in my lifetime, but like that one book was an experience in and of itself. And it was A Grain of Wheat or something. And he's written like so many other books, and he was foundational in the forming of Kenya. Like, he was a revolutionary, and his writing was so powerful that he got in trouble with the leaders of my country after we gained independence from the British, because his literature, it was very political. It was inherently political. The writing, the stories, he had many short stories. They included political themes which are always relevant, and they were always groundbreaking, like the lessons and how he presented it, you know? He made bigger ideas more accessible to people, and this is not to say that his works were trivial. His works were not trivial, are not trivial. He's still alive and writing. His works are not trivial, but like, he made such complex ideas of the way colonization affected us, and the way bad leadership after colonization kept affecting us and stopping us from progressing and everything. He made these arguments so clearly and so well that he was expelled from the country. He left Kenya a few decades ago and never to return. He still lives. He died. He lived in the United States until his death, and he wished to be buried in the United States of America. He wished to be buried in New York, if I remember correctly. Yes, he wished to be buried in New York, though he was born in Kiambu. You know, he was born in a literal. He was a man of. He was a villager, you know, at birth. He literally created the written. He created the written version of his native tongue. He literally, like his native tongue didn't have a written form, but he made that. So yeah, he was quite exceptional. And the point of all this is that political art does not occupy the bottom 99%, and neither does escapist art. Just because it's escapist doesn't put it at this level that's like above everything else, you know. Some of the most beautiful poems and stuff, they have come from politics, you know. For an accessible one, say for you, Ozymandias, it's very realistic, it's very political. Like in a few lines, it just explores so many ideas about empires and stuff, and it's a beautiful piece of art, you know. Just because someone else writes a poem about maybe a poem with the same lines, the same amount of words about a stream, and you know the whole point of it is for you to have this image of a stream and just like, okay, dissociate for a second and be like, oh, this is beautiful. I would call Ozymandias the better poem in this case because it's more powerful, you know, and it's more beautiful, you know. Like sometimes you can get beauty from the political nature of it, and sometimes you can get beautiful from the lack of political nature. And yeah, I would tend to say that no, I would not construct this pyramid.
You would say they're mutually exclusive.
Yes, they're mutually exclusive. And
would you say that your love for or your appreciation for political literature comes from a belief, your belief that I'm assuming right now, right?
You can assume.
I'm projecting.
Yeah.
Would you say that your appreciation for political literature or literature that has political tendencies as stemming from your belief that they reflect the human condition or human nature or the uglier parts of human nature? Not necessarily ugly, but just human nature.
Thank you for that correction, because I was just going to explore the whole idea of uglier part of human nature, because there's a tendency in political nature to paint humans as like awful people, you know, as awful things, and like yeah, there are awful people out there, of course, but you read Machiavelli and you think that everyone is just completely horrible or completely stupid, you know, and it's kind of wrong, you know. Like I'm not a genius, so I'm not gonna come up with a memorable quote right now to tell you why everyone is good or most people are good, but my appreciation for literature, for political literature. The question was political literature because it reflects the human nature, right? My appreciation.
Would you say that's true?
Yes, because ultimately it's when it portrays humans as humans. I don't have that many pop cultural references, but I'm already digging into quite a few. But for now, there's this 1994 South African movie called Sarafina, and it's about apartheid in South Africa. It's based in this high school in 1977.
It's a love story, right?
Not a love story.
No?
Not a love story. Based in 1973. Oh, okay, it's kind of a love story. Let me explain the plot. And there's this girl called Sarafina, and she's in love with this boy, but this boy gets killed by the white cops because he's a revolutionary. And yeah, this causes mass protests in the school, and it's generally a big event that like began the detangling of the apartheid government in South Africa, because this was big back then, you know, like the high schoolers rioted, and it led to massacres, and it led to a lot of countries outside of South Africa learning that South Africa was in fact doing great injustices. The whites of the country were doing great injustices to the blacks of the country, completely, undeniably. However, in the movie, it doesn't paint all white people as like demons. And I hated this movie as a child because it made white people scary to me. You know, its depictions of when it did depict white people, when it did depict the white soldiers in their uniforms going into black slums and like shooting people like just shoots to kill. You know, that was scary to me because that resonated close to home. I imagined my family, you know, a truck pulls up in front of my home and it pops out and they kill me. And I hated this movie because it depicted white people in such a negative light. I didn't recover from that for years and years, until I reached a certain age when I was older, more mature. In this decade, a few years back, like 2022, 2023, I said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna try watch the movie again. And what I see is that the movie was so much more nuanced. In that, yes, it showed the evil sides of human nature. It showed the evils of authoritarianism. It showed the evils of racism and everything. But there were good white people in the movie. There were soldiers who were simply following orders, you know. There were black people who were worse than white people in the movie, who were more evil than them. And I was like, okay, its depiction is actually way more nuanced than that. And so I now like the movie, you know. I loathed this movie as a child because it was like scary. It was more of a horror movie to me than like the scariest movie than like The Conjuring or whatever. Like I was more scared of this movie than like most other stuff. But through this sort of understanding of the nuance behind like the dynamics of humanity, the whole social relationship in South Africa, which I still find very interesting to this day. Yeah, through learning how nuanced it was, I gained a deeper appreciation. So yeah, my appreciation for political literature is if it shows the nuances of human nature. Humans are bad is not a lesson I want to learn from a piece of literature. I don't need another book to tell me that. I don't need to be told that like most people are bad, my species is bad, whatever is bad. I need to gain a deeper level of insight into how humans function and why is the world like this, why are we like this. And yeah, political literature does offer perspective into that.
Yet your favorite show is
The Lord of the Rings.
your favorite movie is one that portrays humans as, I forgot the word, but
reclusive.
well, no, like
Cowards.
no, the very tip of the moral polarization magnet, right? Absolute good, absolute evil. You just stated that you hated absolutism.
Yeah.
So why is would you say that The Lord of the Rings is your form of guilty pleasure?
Yeah, it's a form of guilty pleasure. I'm not guilty, but it's my form of guilty pleasure because like when I watch it, it's like, yeah, these are the good guys. These are the bad guys.
I see.
Let's go for the good guys. Let the good guys win.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
I don't need to know what Saruman's tragic backstory
I don't need
was.
to know like I don't know. Like if Saruman is actually like has a good like motivation to do what he's doing. He wants to kill the trees and he's just an evil guy who wants to kill the trees.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go destroy his home. Like that's it. You know, sometimes you also need that. I also need that.
But you would say you need more moral ambiguity in your stories. Gray characters, gray plot lines.
If it goes somewhere.
If it goes somewhere.
like I don't know. Yeah, if it's going somewhere, then yeah, I do need that.
Okay.
For example, the House of the Dragon, I didn't enjoy it because I didn't really understand like where the moral ambiguity is going. It seemed like I don't know. I'm not a writer or like an expert film analyst, so I don't know what I'm saying here. But like just watching the series, I was like, okay, I don't know where the ambiguity is going, so it's just being ambiguous for the sake of being ambiguous, which is not that interesting. I can be ambiguous, you can be ambiguous. There can be someone brooding and who's good at one point, bad at another point. Is neither. The actions confuse you, but like, what's the point if it's going nowhere, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that makes sense. Now, second question. Do you think people naturally resist change, even if it's good for them?
Oh,
Now, I'm putting good in quotes, since goodness is subjective.
yeah, that's subjective completely. People resist change even when it's good for them. I'm gonna begin with me. I know what I need to do right now. I know the good things I need to do right now. I know what I need to like study. I know what I need to do to keep myself healthy. But sometimes, for me, it's hard, you know. And when it's hard, I'm not able to see the value of the reward of doing the good things. You know, if it changes my life too drastically, it's not that I'm like in love with my life, but like I found comfort in my routine, and perhaps I don't want to break that. So that's just me, as an example. I'll take my father, who I am very much like, but also very much like not like him. My father,
Paragon. That was what I was gonna say. Moral paragons. Jesus. Please go on with your father. With your father.
so my father knows. Again, my father is very educated. He has a master's. He got a master's from UC Berkeley. He's very educated. He knows what's right. He knows what's wrong. But sometimes. He was once really broke. Like he was once like unemployed, and he was working off of like contracts, temporary like consultancy contracts. And he was broke, but he had a job offer. And this job offer was big. Like you're about to say like he was crazy. Like he was struggling. He was borrowing money, but. He had a job offer to become a CEO of a media house, and he rejected the job offer. Yeah, and it's like, and the thing is, he was struggling. It's not like he was like like super well off, and this would be good for him. But he didn't want it to be the way it was presented to him was not the way he wished it to be, and he had it for the longest time. He had this idea that when he gets that, reaching the top of like management at a media house has always been his goal. Being the boss of a newspaper, TV channel, like just a media house. Being the boss of all of everything. That's always been his goal, but he had an idea of how it would be. And when presented with the change of like what he wished for it to be versus what it actually was, he kind of like just said no. He kind of said no. In the end, of course, he was okay. My father has never like gotten into deep financial stress. He moved on. He made he got his way
Are you
back.
mad at him?
No. I mean, it was temporary. It was a temporary
Okay.
struggle.
Okay.
It was like struggle is like, I've never experienced like true struggle. I've experienced struggle for a week or 2 weeks, like of eating like food I don't consider, like I don't want to eat this food, like it's not according to my standards, but like it's just like for a week, and or two. My father has like fought that to ensure that I'm comfortable from my childhood, and I've been comfortable from my childhood, and I'm not mad at him. And I think yes, people are resistant to change, even if it might be good for them, and this is for multiple reasons. So let's take me. I'm lazy, and sometimes laziness is really powerful. It's a cardinal sin, no?
Yes, sloth.
Yes, sloth. It's a cardinal sin. It's powerful. Laziness is a powerful thing. When you know what to do and it's there. Like the path is laid for you, but getting out of bed, sometimes it's at 6 a.m. is just not what I want to do, and So sometimes people are lazy. Sometimes they don't believe that this change is good enough for them. My father was willing to take a risk, and here's the good ending to the story. Right now he is the CEO, and he did get the job that like he always dreamed of, and like he got it in the way he wanted, and we're super well off. We're much better, and he's like really happy with the job. I have conversations with him, and he's always happy. I call him at work, and he's like, good office environment, good everything, So he was resistant to the change back then because he knew that it would be good. Yes, we would have gotten out of. Was it? It was a week or 2 or 3 of like, a bit of struggle. Can't lie, but like after that, life continues. Like we get back into living pretty normal lives, and he was like, okay, sure, like he's rejected something, but he got what he wanted ultimately in the future. So sometimes people can't resist change simply because they know that it's not valuable enough. Okay. He knew that he could continue living off of the contracts that he was getting, and he did.
Okay.
Until he got a better offer. Yeah.
So, to sum up, people do resist change naturally.
Yeah.
Even if it's good for them, for 2 reasons. It's either they're comfortable in habit, or they're comfortable in their ambitions.
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. Now, next. What does, quote unquote, being a good person mean in a world that is morally denigrating?
Define denigrating.
So morally, I wouldn't say gray. Picture gray, but more towards the darker sides. And slowly descending darker to darker to darker.
The issue with being a good person.
How do you define a good person then? Let's start with that.
Okay.
Use one adjective or one quality.
One quality
of a good person that you think is universal
in good people.
Empathy.
Good people. If you don't have empathy, you are not a good person. And
what about manipulators? They're empathetic. They're not good people.
Is it empathy if it's? Is it empathy if you're just able to imagine? Oh yeah, that is empathy. Empathy is when you're able to just imagine like you or them, right? You're able to put yourself in their shoes.
I would say that's less empathy, since empathy is more about connecting at an emotional level.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So manipulators, I don't think they connect on an emotional level. I think they're just really able to connect on a logical level.
Manipulators more intellectually able, so different. They're different.
Yeah, they're different.
All
They're
right.
intellectually able to predict.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to predict your emotions, but they're not able to. Yeah, they're not able to share those emotions with you. If I'm empathetic and I see someone, okay, this person is sad, I'm able to feel that sadness with them, and I'm able to do something that they might not be able to help them get out of that. You know?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Would you count yourself as a empathetic person? As an empath, yes.
No.
JP is not narcissistic. Confirmed. This is very interesting because studies have shown that people with acute narcissism most likely associate themselves with a higher degree of empathy.
Okay.
Whereas real empathetic people generally are insecure at some parts.
I am very insecure about my empathy, and it's a struggle. I sometimes genuinely ask myself, am I a good person? Because I'm sometimes able to. I was once comforting someone, and they were crying. They were just straight up crying.
Yeah.
And they were in my arms, but I wasn't able to relate to that. At that moment, I didn't connect, I felt completely like I didn't feel a connection in that moment. Yet there's something really powerful about holding someone in your arms who's crying and comforting them. There's something in that moment that it's just deep, and I didn't feel any of that. And I was like, damn, I wasn't able to connect emotionally with this person. Am I not an empath? And yeah, it's something I feel, I might be in a room full of people laughing and people having fun, but yet I myself I'm miserable, I find that connecting emotionally with others, being able to fill in another's shoes, see another's struggles as my own, it's difficult. And it's a struggle I fight with daily, and it's one of those things where, yet again, I know what to do. I know that maybe my call to action shouldn't be empathy. If I see someone is struggling, I don't need to feel overwhelmed emotionally to go help them. I should simply go help them if they're struggling. But sometimes I don't. The one time I was holding my cousin in my arms, she was crying, but I didn't.
I see.
I was impartial. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in that sense, would you say you're a cynical person? Would you say cynicism is mutually exclusive from empathy?
Well, I want to view empathy as something completely positive.
Yeah.
But like any emotion, I don't think it is. I think there do have to be negative aspects of empathy. And so yes, my previous statement, I still hold it true. Good people have to be empaths. However, not all empaths are good people. I would say that there are more empaths than there are good people. That would be my guess. I'm no expert.
Who do you think I am? No, wait, first of all, do you think I'm empathetic?
I don't know. I've not thought about it.
Or am I just good at guessing what you're thinking?
No. I think we've reached a point in friendship that you kind of understand my insecurities also. And
would you say I'm relating to them on an emotional standpoint? Or am I consciously pulling them out and using them against you?
You don't use them against me, you use them to help me.
Okay.
But
So you would say I'm a helpful manipulator then?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if you're a helpful. Yeah, exactly. I can't distinguish between a helpful manipulator and someone that's just an empathetic person. You know.
I see, and you would say that is something you need to work on.
Yeah, I need to know, like, if this person, like, okay, I'm not gonna drop the name, but there was this one friend who, like, I genuinely thought, I once told them that, like, I had no friends, and then they just became my friends. So they just jumped onto me suddenly. Like, I told them, yo, I'm kind of feeling like I have no friends, and like, it was just a slip of the tongue, you know. I was feeling lonely, and I told them, yo, I feel lonely. I feel like I have no friends. And like the next week, like every time they saw me, they would treat me so much better, and they kind of forced themselves to become my friend. And by the end of it, yeah, they were my friend, and I deeply, like, by the end of it, I deeply appreciate this person, and I could see that, like, truly they appreciated me. Like, if maybe at some point in the journey they did see that, like, yeah, I want to be this person's friend actually. And yeah, because when I was saying goodbye to them, I felt connected. I felt like, okay, yeah, I feel like I made a friend here. I feel like this was a friendship. I can call this a friendship. So yeah, I do need to work on distinguishing between someone who's trying to help me because they've spotted a weakness, you know. It's different between spotting a weakness and relating to a weakness. So yeah.
I see.
What was the question? I feel like I lost track of the question.
I don't know, something about me. Unrelatable.
Yeah.
Now, can memory or guilt shape who we are more than actual events?
Yes, it can. It's just anecdotes. These are anecdotes.
Yeah. Give me one anecdote.
I once had this friend back home. We were so close. So how do I phrase this? So we were really close friends, right? However, I became their friend because I wanted something else out of them. I wasn't seeking friendship while going into the friendship, you know. But then I got into the friendship, and they didn't give me like this other thing that, like, I wanted to get, you know. I'm gonna keep it like under wraps.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they didn't give me this other thing I wanted to get, rightfully so. But we became such close friends that I felt kind of betrayed that someone so close to me would refuse to give me just this simple thing that I went into the friendship asking for. And yeah, I was offered
money.
Yeah, money. Money. Yeah.
Straight. Alright.
I was offered an out from the friendship. Like, I was offered a way out.
Okay.
And I snatched up this way out. And when I got this way out, I never explained to the old friend that I was out of the friendship, you know. I never like told them I don't want to continue this friendship. I just let them go, you know. And they never understood why. They never understood why really I let them go. They didn't really take it to be as it was, that like I merely got money from elsewhere now. And yeah. Wait, what was the question? I need to frame this as an answer to a question.
Can memory or guilt shape who we are more than actual events?
Yeah, more than actual events. Okay, yeah. So now this is keeping. Fast forward a few months, like let's skip over 3 months. and they confront me about it, and they ask me like, what happened? Why are we no longer friends? And at this point, it's been 3 months of me making up stories about this. It's been 3 months of me thinking about these events and synthesizing them in such a way that I'm just making up a narrative. I'm really consistent at making up narratives, to the point that the actual events of the story mattered less, and it was merely the feelings that I got in the moments that affected how I remember them, to the point that I felt so betrayed. I simply told them that, like, you hurt me, and you destroyed me, and blah blah blah, and you refused to give me and it harmed me, and I just saw a way out of that. And
would you say that you acted this guilt or shame that reshaped your narrative that you tell yourself stems from a protective mechanism? You're trying to protect yourself from the shame that you would feel by telling yourself that they're actually the perpetrators to the end of your friendship. Would you say there's a possibility? I mean, this is subconscious in many levels, but...
It's many levels, but I would say that no. I would say that I'm very well aware that I was the... I would say that I'm very well aware that I was the one who ended the friendship.
But when they confronted you, you snapped at them.
Yeah.
So you've redirected your shame because you didn't want to face it.
I've been facing this shame ever since.
With the one who mattered, or with yourself?
With myself, unfortunately. I've never really addressed the shame with the one who mattered. And
so you would say shame is objective then?
In this situation, yes. In this situation, the shame is objective. It objectively rests on me. And yeah, the guilt of my ending of the friendship and of my of the ending of the friendship, the guilt from that is what shapes it's generally what shapes my perspective of the whole story more than the action, more than the events that happened. The events that happened, I remember them clearly, but they're not that important, Like, I remember them and I'm like, yeah, okay, that happened, okay, that happened, okay, that happened. But the feeling I get, it was physical. I could also feel it in my body at the time. The feeling I got during the events, it's, yeah. I can, yeah. This is one answer where I can say yes, like, completely. Of course, it doesn't encompass all scenarios and all situations, but just making a deduction on most social situations that people find themselves caught up in. Yes, the shame or guilt related to the event shapes the perspective more than the whatever.
Going back to what you said, you would say that you're a epilogue justified that both the ends and means type of guy.
The epilogue justifies both the ends and means. No.
No?
No.
That's what you said though. The fallout overruled both the end, the result of this friendship, and the steps that led up to it.
Fallout. It overruled in terms of how I remember it.
I see.
But it doesn't overrule in terms of in terms of what happened, like how I feel about it, how I remember it, the most intense feeling I got was in the fallout. Because the fallout, it lasted long. It wasn't like I ever told them, screw off, forgive my French.
Mm-hmm.
It happened like over the course of weeks, months. It happened in such a way that the feeling wasn't instant, but it nonetheless was always in the air. And yeah, how I remember it. Yeah, but returning to your question on do the ends justify the means, that the epilogue justifies both the ends and the means. No. It doesn't justify it, because if I could go back and do things differently, I certainly would, because these like series of events like affect me to this day. And okay, someday I'll tell you off camera how these events affect me to this day. But yeah, they affect me to this day. And yeah, they don't justify the means. The ends don't justify the means. Because in this case, the feeling you're left with is what happened during the means and not during the end. And you'll remember how you feel, not what happened. You'll remember how you felt. So yeah, the ends don't. They don't. Yeah.
I see. All right. Okay. In that case, what's worse? Dying. Okay, this is also a bit personal. What do you think is worse? Dying in service of others or living when others died for you?
Do we mean this literally or do we mean this like emotionally? Like, am I the judge of how I frame the answer? Like,
you're the judge. Let's start with a more straightforward question. Would you rather die in glory or live in shame?
I would rather live in shame if the shame rests on if the shame only rests on my shoulders, if I let it rest on my shoulders. Like, if it is yet again an objective situation where the shame rests on my shoulders completely, like from whatever perspective you take, the shame is on my shoulders, then yeah. But if it's a situation whereby I can get rid of this shame if I choose to, if it's a situation where, say, it's my culture that demands that I live in shame, then I would rather die than I would rather live in shame, because my life is indispensable. It's the word I'm searching for, but I can't find it. It's you can't quite. It's irreplaceable. That's not the word I'm looking for, but like, it's irreplaceable. My life is extremely valuable, so I would rather live in shame if I can lift the shame off my shoulders. If I can take steps to lift the shame off my shoulders.
If you can, you'd bear survivor's guilt. Let's say you're that one rebel. Let's say you failed to deliver the Death Star plans. A Death Star plan. Your teammates just fought so you could go. And it's not even like as if they fought for you. You're just coincidentally the only one there.
You're about to be shocked by the words that come out of my mouth.
Okay.
You like make a prediction, and whatever I say will be crazier than that.
Okay. Wait.
I had a stepmother at some point.
Mm-hmm.
My father and my ex-stepmother got a divorce on my birthday. They decided to split up on my birthday. And on the day, like on my birthday. It was a celebration because my father, he made a small mistake. Like we were unable to have that celebration, and my father and stepmother had already been like drifting apart. You know, their broader goals in life were like extremely different. But the result of like, yeah, just another argument that they had on my birthday about my birthday stuff, it resulted in my stepmother had booked a ticket to live. Like she was out of country. She wasn't Kenyan, so she had booked a ticket, but it became a one-way ticket. I don't know if it was a return ticket before that, but she very unceremoniously left the next morning. Like, by unceremoniously, I mean like no one ever got to say goodbye. It's a kind of way that, like, she just left early in the morning, packed her stuff, was taken to the airport, and boom, gone. The guilt, the subsequent guilt I felt from this, I found a way to blame myself.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I found a way to blame myself. And essentially the emotional like ramifications of this blaming on myself, I still haven't gotten over them. It's been 2 years. It's 2025, no?
Yep.
It's been 2 years since that break. But the emotional ramifications are still very much present. If they come back, if there's a wave of reminiscing, the emotional feeling of, yeah, this relationship died, and I was a part of that. Yeah, it's heavy. It's. I have I have insecurities, and I have things that make me feel, deeply, things that deeply hurt me. This is one of them, and it's something light, It's not that, like, maybe she already had the one-way ticket. Maybe my birthday had nothing to do with it.
Maybe it was pre-planned.
Maybe it was pre-planned. No, genuinely, like, maybe there was no argument on the last day. There was an argument on the last day, but maybe there was no argument on the last day. Maybe just there's that. Like, maybe she was already going, and my birthday was just. It just happened to be the time, Bad luck, tough shit. But I found a way to blame myself, and now, if the blame does lie on me, or if it's much clearer, if I don't have to find a way to blame myself, if someone dies or something dies, and the person tells me, save yourself, or I'm doing this for you, something like that, I don't think I'll be able to live with that guilt. I think ultimately I'm extremely emotionally fragile, and I see myself going to a really dark place. Something like this happens, I see myself going to really dark place.
I see.
I wouldn't want to go there. So no, I would not. If I can't bear the survivor's guilt, I don't think I'm going to. I think I choose to die with glory, not necessarily for the glory, but for the death.
But just so you wouldn't need to bear the guilt.
Just so that I don't need to bear it. If someone literally dies for me, I will not be able to bear the guilt from that.
I see.
Yeah.
There's a very touching story, JP. If a society isn't bad, but isn't progressing, does it deserve to be torn down? Or should the way...
What do you mean by progress?
Like...
Wait, no, complete the question first. I didn't...
Does it deserve to be torn down?
What do you mean by... Okay. the question. What do you mean by progress?
Let's say, ignore technological progress.
Yeah.
Let's say,
Intellectual.
philosophical progress,
Okay.
right? Right now we have all of these philosophical mindsets, these isms, right? But most of them are all either point to a absurdist mindset. So, no, God, maybe he exists, maybe it doesn't, whatever. We party, we go boom, we go wild. Or we go to nihilism, depression, edginess. Oh, nothing matters, nothing matters. My life is a lie. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean anything. My mom and dad, they gave birth to whatever, you know? Either that or a complete ignorance of it. Would you say that in the next 50 years, if you don't have another form of thought, would we survive?
Yes.
Can we survive latching on to the thoughts of antiquity rather than building something new ourselves?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't deserve to be torn down then.
No.
All right.
No. Let me go on a rant though. I need to rant about this.
All right.
We are, as a society, completely obsessed with progress
Mm-hmm.
to the point that it's sickening. Like the intellectual progress you're talking about, it's like you know, look at ancient Egypt.
Okay.
Ancient Egypt had people in ancient Egypt studying ancient Egypt. Genuinely, they had ancient Egypt. They had like historians for ancient Egypt in ancient Egypt. That's how long that society lasted. And yeah, it had its different phases. It wasn't this one block of like stuff, of course. And it had its different periods and whatever, but they weren't driven for philosophical progress to the level that we, like, as a global society are today, you know? And they lasted so much longer than I feel like we're gonna last. They lasted for thousands of years. They lasted for I don't know how many thousands of years. And the modern Western society is probably not gonna last that long.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't hold on to antiquated ideas. Just because something is antiquated doesn't mean that it's wrong. We tend to view the new as right and the old as like wrong, you know, the old as they didn't know any better, you know. But sometimes, yes, the older ideas that people had, they did know better. I feel like if there was more focus on fostering community and having love for the environment, which are pretty old ideas, much older than capitalism or any like recent Western philosophical like progress. If there was more focus on those, then Western society would be so much better. It would be so much better than it is, and the whole world would benefit from that because it's the wealthiest part of the world. The whole world benefits from what the West does, but it's not there. It chooses to instead focus on new philosophical ideas published 250 years ago, called capitalism, which is going to destroy the planet. Like undeniably. Like no, I don't. We're not even going to debate about it. It's going to destroy the planet pretty soon. Of course, on a planetary, on a like universal scale, and we're gonna die before the planet even feels anything. But like on a universal scale, yeah, the planet is gonna the planet is gonna be dead like a blink of an eye, you know, because of very recent ideas, you know. So no. Societies can't hold on to old ideas. It doesn't mean that they should. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't. It means that when you find a good idea, when you find an idea that works, it doesn't matter if it's new, if it's old. You should stick with it.
Do you think progressive societies are unnecessary or overrated?
they're way overrated.
Mm-hmm.
Another example: Native Americans arrived in North America around 10,000 years ago. They had such peaceful societies. Okay, not such peaceful, but they had such like prosperous societies for 9,000 years. They didn't have much progress. They didn't invent the wheel. They didn't invent the wheel or anything.
They sacrificed babies, though.
Whatever. They didn't have. They
What do you mean? Whatever. What was that?
Whatever. All societies has its evils. Okay. You talk about sacrificing babies. I'll talk about sacrificing babies. Start talking about them as if they were these completely evil people. But the West supports certain countries which also sacrifice babies in their own right and justify that sacrifice of babies through ideological means, just as these savages. I know you didn't call them savages, but I'm just framing it from a Western perspective. These savages did. So there are very big evils to the West today, whereby babies are being sacrificed. There's this company Nestle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already know the reference I'm about to give, right? They sacrifice babies in Africa. They make it such that women don't breastfeed their children, but give them baby formula. But then, like, they jack up the prices of baby formula to the point that some women can't afford the baby formula. And I don't know how exactly it works, but Nestle has killed very many children in the Congo and in impoverished regions in Africa. So don't tell me about sacrificing babies. The modern West sacrifices babies. Maybe not in the West, but outside it certainly does that a lot. So yeah, Native Americans lived for 9,500 years until very recent history, until 500, 600 years ago. They existed, and I would tend to think that the people who existed in these societies were happy. I feel like humans have a way of finding happiness, and yeah,
Happiness or content?
Or contentness. I feel we have a way of finding contentness in our situations. Contentment in our situations, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like overrated societies, yes, completely. No, progressive societies completely overrated. A society can remain relatively stagnant, but maybe if we want it to last longer and not invent capitalism, maybe that's like.
So you would support a decentralized government then?
Oh, completely.
I see. What does true forgiveness require?
Let me quote the Bible, which I don't do often because I don't know that many Bible verses. This very famous quote from the Bible: "To forgive and forget."
I didn't know that was from the Bible.
That was from the Bible.
Can you forget first?
No. If you forget first, then what are you forgiving?
Can you pretend that you forgave someone and then forget about it? And then when this thing gets brought up again.
Yeah, exactly. So you've not really moved on. You've really just buried your feelings.
Can you gaslight yourself into forgiving someone and then forgetting it?
It's a compromise you've taken.
Okay.
Because
if you've done this, step back.
Yeah, if you've done this, then like you see this person as like useful to you in some way other than like emotionally, or other than like you find them too valuable to hold this transgression against them. So yeah, if you forget about it and then pretend to forgive, yeah, you genuinely like you're not being truthful, and eventually that's gonna harm you. Because you're just holding down your true emotions, and eventually that's also gonna harm them.
When you remember how you gaslit yourself.
You remember how you're not gonna take it out on yourself. You're not gonna self-harm. You're gonna harm them. You're gonna lash out at them. In whatever way you choose.
So what does true forgiveness require?
Okay, true forgiveness. Forgive and forget.
Okay.
Forgetting is part of forgiving, in the sense of letting go.
So it's the last step.
When you say you can't force yourself to. Okay, yes, you can. You literally can erase a memory.
Forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget. Forgetting is part of forgiving in the sense of letting go. You're not gonna physically, like in most cases of forgiving, you're not gonna erase the memory from your mind. You're still gonna remember that this person did this,
Yeah.
and it made you feel this way. The thing about human emotions is that they come back. You are gonna feel hurt possibly again. But the sense of letting this go is the sense of, I understand that I feel this way, but I'm not gonna hold this person accountable for that. I'm going to separate this person from how I feel about these events. I feel like this ties really well into your question about is it the shame or the guilt or the actions or the events that shape it. It's how you feel, you know. Our brains are like really emotional, you know. That's what makes us human, you know. Like we're super emotional creatures. So when we remember an event, we always have these tinted glasses, you know, when putting on, like when viewing the event again. And sometimes it's rose tinted because like you view the event like positively, you know. It's like
Yeah.
those were perfect times. I'm already having nostalgia for like Welcome Week, when I know that during Welcome Week I was super bored. But like yeah, like you can always, when looking back at like events, you'll always have like rose tinted glasses. You'll always have like some form of emotion you attach to that event.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for that emotion to come back. You felt hurt during an event? Well, go back. Listen to a song that you're listening to during that time. Listen to or watch a movie that reminds you of that. And you can activate this feeling and it can hit you again. But to truly forgive, you need to let go. When the Bible, I don't remember who said it, but when whoever said it said you need to forgive and forget. I think it's all part of one thing, you know? Like, forgetting is such a core element of forgiving. Because, you're gonna feel this way again. You're gonna feel hurt again. You're gonna feel however you feel again. But you're not gonna hold a person accountable to it. You're not going to demonize them because of it, as you would before. You're not going to have the same reaction as you would if you hadn't claimed to forgive them. You know, if you claim forgiveness, then your reaction to feeling hurt again, just by the memory of this, it has to be different. And ultimately, that's the core of it. Your reaction and your actions after claiming forgiveness have to change. Otherwise, you have not forgiven anything and you're just simply claiming it.
I see.
You can't change your emotions. As humans, it's a flaw. You know, we can't choose when to be happy and when to be sad. It's really our bodies, our brains and bodies define that. The way we function defines that. Outside forces define that. The weather defines that. But we can always choose what to do. Like, it's very hard to truly take away someone's freedom of choice. Someone can choose
Freedom of choice or freedom of what to feel?
freedom of what to. No, you can never take away someone's freedom of what to feel. I mean freedom of choice. I mean in the sense of doing stuff, of doing things, someone can do whatever they want to do. Like, if I want to forget, not literally erase the memory, but like not hold the memory with such great importance anymore, I can do that. If I want to continue building my life, living the past in the past, then whoever transgressed against me probably in many situations would not be able to usually will not be able to stop that. So what I said was that at the core of forgiving is changing your actions, attitudes. It's change. At the core of forgiving is change. I want to I don't know which aspect of it to focus on, but for true forgiveness you have to change. You know, you have to change.
Not them.
The one forgiving has to change.
I see.
Because you're forgiving, you know, you're recognizing that they did something wrong, you know. But you also have to change something, you know. Like if I'm like if I simply say okay I forgive you, but then I was calling you a piece of crap for doing whatever you did before, and afterwards I keep calling you a piece of crap. I keep shit talking you to your friends. Then like what forgiveness is that? There's no forgiveness there. It's you've not forgiven anyone or anything. You're just claiming it, you know. You're just claiming to have acknowledged. Okay, you did a wrongdoing. But like when you forgive, you have to do something to show that forgiveness. When I forgive you. You were my friend before you did this. You shall be my friend afterwards. Anecdote time. So very recently, this year in fact, this academic year, I had a friend. But then this guy, literally like betrayed me and lied to me to my face about it. And I was so hurt by that. It shaped sort of the rest of my experience here. And yeah, in many ways it did shape it. But a few months ago, I forgave this person. Now before this, I used to...
I'm sorry, JP, it was actually me.
What?
What?
you know the story, but like it's not even in the context of the video. Like, okay, I was shit.
You were?
Shit talking.
No. Oh, no, you said you were shit. So I was like,
no.
Oh, okay.
I would speak badly of this person. I would make fun of them. Whatever like opportunity I get. Yeah. I would try talk to people who I know dislike him, because I dislike him also, you know. But then at the end of it, I stopped disliking. Like after forgiving him, and after saying okay, I look at you, I forgive you. The first thing I did after forgiving him, I had blocked him on all social media. I unblocked him. But that was stage one, you know. That was change. Yeah, I changed something. But today...
I think you just have attachment issues, JP.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Maybe I do. But
go on. Go on.
Today, I don't talk badly about him anymore. Like, I don't have beef, as the kids would say, with him anymore. And it required me to forgive him, you know. He told me sorry, like, back then. Like, yeah, quite a while ago. But like, he didn't accept his sorry back then, you know. That's not what changed anything. The change didn't come from his end. It came from my end when I forgave him and I allowed him and allowed our friendship to be what it could be, you know. And yeah. Basically, that's just illustrating that change is like the core of forgiveness.
Alright. That's a beautiful answer.